UMAR, AHMED, IFL TV, MTK Global, joined by Frank Smith in Liverpool.
We're back together again. I was stuck with Andrew the other week. I love Andrew. Much better than you.
Okay.
Don't take it personally.
No, we all bring different
Strengths. Do you know what? All he went on about all week was, I've got to beat that million interview that UMAR did. So I like that there's a bit of competition, healthy competition between you all.
Well, yeah, he had a massive interview with Eddie. Obviously,
How many did it do?
280. Obviously, events unfolded whilst you guys were out in Dallas with the alleged failed test from Dillian Whyte, but obviously it was cleared. A lot of people have had their take on the matter. I know you spoke to Andrew about it briefly, but since then the WBC have suspended him, even though VADA didn't fail him on anything, and that's the agency that WBC used. So do you think that's a bit strange?
Yeah, I do think it's strange, and I was just saying, and this isn't just the WBC, but social media in general, and people who are following this whole situation. I just think people should wait for facts before they start second guessing what's happened. Everyone's got a view on these things. They don't actually know anything about it. They've taken it from an interview or a piece on originally Boxing Scene, for example, and all of a sudden they're the facts. And then everyone's got an opinion on this should have happened, this shouldn't have happened, this should have been done. And I just think maybe it's the problem with our society and social media as a whole, not just on this situation, but people should wait until the facts come out. And then you can make your judgment. And then you can have an opinion on it, right or wrong, but at least you're right to have an opinion on it because you know all the facts. But right now, people have opinions and do things and make decisions based on what they've heard. So that would be my main sort of argument against it. Just wait.
Just playing devil's advocate, if you're on social media, for example, when the Jarrell Miller stuff broke, Dan Raphael tweeted it, people was obviously slating him, and now we know it was factual that he did fail them tests. But, that was straight away. Thomas Hauser's article did say he has failed a test. Now, we don't know whether that's true, exactly, but if he's saying it, and Dan Raphael did the same thing, perhaps people took it as the same situation as they did with Jarrell Miller.
Yeah, my problem is with society as it is today, though, is all of us, as soon as anyone says anything, like you could put something out there and people believe, do you know what I mean? People could believe what you say. You could just make something up completely. You could ruin people's lives. And again, this isn't just on this situation or these situations within this sport, but the media put things out there that they make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? So I think that would be my main point and argument against it, is just wait and see the facts and then you can have an opinion. And people can't say, if people could say stuff, they'd say it. They wouldn't say I can't say anything, they'd just say it. And it would be out there. But right now I think people have to wait, and don't get me wrong, this isn't going to change people's view on the internet, is it? They're just going to carry on doing what they're doing, but I'd just wait till the facts come out about anything, any situation, and don't talk about things that you don't understand. I don't understand. I've never said I understand. I was just saying I understand how to put these lights together down here. Like someone is an expert in doing that. It's like anti-doping. People ask me questions about anti-doping. That's not what I'm an expert within.
Really?
No. It's like you do this, so you are an expert within what you do. You couldn't go in and run a bank all of a sudden. So you couldn't go in and take over UK anti-doping and bring in a load of protocols. Do you know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
So that's another thing from me, but there's not much you can say, really.
But when that article did come out, the fact that a respected journalist within boxing, who's been in the sport for a long time, did state something, just like Dan Raphael did with Jarrell Miller, at the time, could you see why people's reactions would be the same as it was for Jarrell Miller?
But I think then when people come out thereafter and say, this is incorrect, and I can't say anything, obviously that's always the stumbling block, is where people can't say anything. But as I say, journalists get things wrong. It happens all the time, not just in this, in various other things. So, yeah, I can understand people jump to conclusions, but I just personally think you shouldn't put things out there that you don't actually have a knowledge of or an understanding of.
Fair enough. Eddie came under a lot of stick about the fact they didn't inform Team Rivas, but watching his interview with Coogan yesterday, it's clear why he didn't, because if he had told Team Rivas, and there could have been basically a legal case against Eddie, because he needed to keep that confidential between the panel and Dillian Whyte, and that was it, because there was actually nothing wrong, because he was cleared to fight. So I don't really get people saying why he should have informed them. Obviously,
it's another one where people have their view on it because they think they know every fact. Like, do you think these people know that any case to do with anti-doping is all confidential until a point that it's, so he, as he said yesterday, he couldn't say anything. He wasn't allowed to say anything. So is that his fault? No. Now he's just following the rules, the laws, the legalities around it. And, unfortunately, as you said, he's come under a lot of stick, but I don't think it's at all deserved. Because
of course, it's not Eddie's fault. There is an argument.
Sound like I'm fangirling.
No, but there is an argument to say, yes, that the opposing team should be informed, even though he has been cleared to box. You can still tell them if the system allowed that, but he would actually get in trouble if he revealed that. So it's not his fault. It's a fault perhaps in the system.
Yeah, but again, everyone's saying it's a fault in the system. They don't actually know the protocol that is followed to get to that point. Do you get what I'm saying? True. So unless you understand every step of it, I think it's very difficult to comment on it. Again, it's another point like that. And until you do, don't get me wrong, if you go out and do all your research and say this is the protocol that should have been followed and it wasn't followed, you can have an opinion on it. But again, he did everything he was allowed to do, could do, and has explained it himself. I'm not going to repeat what he says. People just say I'll just repeat everything that Eddie says. So rather than do that, I'll just say listen to his own interview.
Did you watch his video with Bob Arum?
Yeah, what, the one at the press conference? Yeah, I was there.
Oh, he was in
it's hilarious.
What do you make of Bob's comments about Dillian Whyte, basically?
Do you know what? I missed those bits.
Seriously?
I walked in and out. I just saw the bit when they were going at it, and Eddie said, Bob's amazing because he can absolutely rip you to shreds, and then 2 minutes later he'll ring you and go, right, this fight. And then Bob said, well, you've got to be an idiot to take it seriously in this business. So, yeah. What did he say?
Bob's been quite critical about the situation, and then Eddie's come back and said, basically, you have shows where your fighters don't even get tested, etc. So they've had that back and forth. And then he's raised his concern also about Lomachenko coming to the UK, the whole glove situation with Dillian Whyte as well. I don't know whether he's trying to build the fight up with Loma and Campbell, or I don't know.
Look, my personal view, I think the British Boxing Board of Control do a great job, one of the best commissions in the world. So, again, Bob doesn't actually know every detail of this. Do you get what I'm saying? Again, it's another one. I'm not saying he doesn't. He has a better understanding than anyone on social media, but he doesn't know every detail, again, of what took place with this. And without seeing exactly what he said, I'm not going to, again, comment on it. But I think he wanted to have a go at Eddie. He did that quite well last week.
Some humour in that situation as well was that the fact that he referred to the British Board of Control as the BBC, which is British a TV network.
Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah, they're actually doing the fight. Lomachenko, Campbell, they're going to adjudicate the fight. The British Broadcasting Corporation.
Bob was ripping into the BBC.
A lot of people rip into the BBC, to be honest. A lot of people don't like them, and there's a TV licence. So
let's talk about a show tomorrow night in Liverpool. JD Next Gen show. How do you think it is as a JD Next Gen show?
I think it's brilliant. I think when we announced it, it went down amazingly. It's unfortunate that Joe Hughes pulled out against Lewis Ritson. That was going to be a really great fight. But, stacked card from top to bottom. You got Brian Rose, who former world title challenger, been in there with Demetrius Andrade and some other big names. All the experience he's got taking on Anthony Fowler, who hasn't shied away after, he's coming straight back after the Scott Fitzgerald fight and getting straight back in there. In a tough fight, and you have to respect that, and you have to respect that he's taking these level of fights. We were talking about earlier that in boxing's the only sport where a loss is really sort of frowned upon. Everyone thinks if you lose, it's over. Every other sport you lose, football teams lose week in, week out. They're not finished, and I think there's so much pressure on that these days. You see some great fighters get to 50, 60 fights, lost 7, but have had amazing careers. So I don't think, as long as you're testing yourself, I think fight fans have to respect that you're taking the toughest tests, taking the best fights. So it's a great card. Sean McGoldrick back as well in a step-up fight, and from here he gets the win on Friday night. He can really move on from here into some big fights.
There's been a lot of criticism from UK fans about the Sky fight nights, not the pay-per-views, but just the standard Saturday fight nights. Do you think that's been fair?
In some places, possibly, yes. In other places, no. I think we had a great period. There's probably been a few less Saturday fight night shows. I think, but looking at some of the shows, you look at the Charlie Edwards world title defence, at the Copper Box with Joshua Buatsi on the card, Lawrence Coley on the card, Lewis Ritson on the card. That was stacked. You look at the Liverpool show we did here, which, basically sold out. Huge card here as well. Liam Smith, Scott Fitzgerald against Anthony Fowler. Another card stacked from top to bottom. So, look, I think I do agree in some places we need to improve. And that's what we've been working on in this sort of, I say quieter season. It's not really a quieter season, but ready for the September launch of the new season of boxing on Sky. We're going to look to announce some really strong cards. I think the JD Next Gen series has been brilliant for the sport, brilliant for the fighters to really boost them on, give them headline fights early on in their career. And, again, I think the pressure's been that there's been opportunities for fighters to go to the US, for example, since we launched the Zone deal. And this has been in the past as well, not just now. But we're in a sport where it could be your last fight tomorrow. You could have a tough fight and never box again. You're getting in there and you're putting everything on the line. And I think you have to respect these fighters that they're doing it. And they deserve to get as much money as possible. So if there's an opportunity for them to go and box in the US, for example, we can't stand in the way of that, and we shouldn't stand in the way of that. I think the other point as well is that in recent times, a lot of the sort of bigger fighters that we built over a period of time have retired. There's a lot of names that have gone from the game. Now is the period to really build the new guys coming through. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's not like a click your fingers, they're here. We've been working on this and built this, or what we feel built this sport back up over a long period of time. So I think sometimes people have to have patience, but obviously fans don't want that. And I understand that, they're paying the money. So I completely, I respect that as well. But as I say, we're not shying away from it. We know in places where we need to improve, and we're working very hard to do that. And I think, again, when we launch this new season of boxing, hopefully everyone will be very happy with it.
You and Eddie have been vocal from September. The shows, or the standard of shows, will get better. But if purses are doubling and trebling and right fees aren't increasing, how are you going to sort of do that? That seems impossible.
That's the truth, isn't it? That's our problem, and that's what the fans say. There's only so much we can do. We can put, for example, Campbell Lomachenko. It has to be pay-per-view to make that fight. It's a fight that's deserved of pay-per-view. But there's a level we can go to, and we're going to push ourselves to the max where we can in order to make this happen and make the fans happy. Again, it's another thing where, unfortunately, people don't really understand the complexities of what goes into putting on a show, the cost of what goes into putting on a show, and the fighters deserve to be paid well. And if there's opportunities elsewhere, we need to try and keep them with us. So, but that's our problem, fortunately. It's no one else's problem. We have to deal with it. We have to put together what we feel is an appealing schedule, and as I say, we'll work very hard to do that.
Have you got any updates on either Kell Brook or Callum Smith?
Yeah, Callum Smith, I think Eddie was talking to yesterday, with some news soon. Kell Brook's back in the gym. He had a little period out. I think he wasn't ready for his... we were planning for him to fight earlier this year. He's had a little period out. I think he's just back in training now. He's taking it seriously. And I don't think there's a rush, if you get what I'm saying. I know people want to know straight away what he's doing, where he's going, but I think at this stage of his career, he has to make the right decisions, and he has to train right. He has to do everything, not rush a decision to get a quick fight in 8 weeks. He needs to do everything the right way. So, in time, hopefully, we'll have some more news on Kell Brook.
Because there you've got two very big names in British boxing, Kell Brook. You've still got the likes of Ricky Burns floating about. I'm sure there's going to be news on him soon. So, are you going to try your best to get these guys to headline shows in the UK rather than go to the US? I know you've mentioned the money, but are you going to give it your all to try and slot them into Saturday fight nights in decent sized fights?
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to, as I say, going back to it, we're going to do everything we can within our power that we can deliver, and try and keep these guys on Saturday fight nights in the UK, on shows in the UK. If other opportunities come up, going back, you can't stand in the way of it. But we know what we need to deliver. We're going to work very hard, and judge us when you see it. That's what I'll say. And if you're still not happy, then we have to keep working, because at the end of the day, it's the fans' opinions that count. But judge it when you see it, and then we'll go from there.
Because you had a lot of praise for, I think it was 2016, 2017. No, not you. But in terms of your Sky shows, 2016, 2017, 2018, I mean, the roof, it really was sort of set the standard.
Changed.
Yeah, of course, the US.
Yeah, the market completely changed. And again, that is not the fans. The fans don't care about that. And fine, rightly so. It's not their, they don't have to. They could just get on with their thing. They want to watch good, high quality competitive boxing. We have to then deliver it. But if you want an explanation to that, it's because the zone came into the market. It's because there was opportunities in the US. So again, going back to it, we have to deliver the best opportunities for our fighters. And yes, that is financially as well. They deserve to be. If you were offered a job and you were offered 10 times more to go to the US, you'd do it in the US, wouldn't you? Yeah. That's the truth, And sometimes those opportunities come up. So just, UMAR, I'll get you a flight to New York. Don't tell Coogan. We'll sort it out.
Cheers, mate.